classes is the way that one of my professors kind of facilitates his conversations and stuff. And we're not in the classroom. We want this to be, you know, intimate, and we want everyone to share their voices and stuff like that. So we don't want nobody raising their hand. If you want to speak, you say your name first so anyone can respond and use your name as you wish to be called. So is that okay with everyone? And if you're going to respond to someone else's thought or idea, you can also say, I'm going to respond to whoever just said something. And sounds good? Awesome.
Do you want to make a note about...
For interpretation, call this number and then enter this code.
Great. So the first question that we wanted to ask, to kind of have this conversation going, is what are some of your thoughts and ideas? I mean, what are some of your thoughts on the concepts and ideas that were just presented by some of us?
Such as the integration of capitalism with neoliberalism, border imperialism, anything that you heard that.
You don't have to agree with it either.
Yeah, you.
Yeah,
It's
pushback
okay to
is
disagree.
yeah,
If no
highly
one has
encouraged.
thoughts and questions, we can move on. But we wanted, because we just said a lot.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure there were like no clarification. Okay.
Awesome.
Do we need the mic? Can we just speak loud?
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. We're not gonna pass.
Yeah, we're not gonna be passing the mic anymore.
We're all family here. It's good.
So another question that we wanted to impose is, what is the particular role of youth?
Do you have something? We have
Yeah, I think
yes.
the most frustrating thing for me with people my age, I'm amazed at how many people when you say something like, oh, what they're doing at the border and separating kids and their parents and putting them in cages, they'll go, yeah, that's awful, but, a big but. And I mean, and I think for me, I need to learn how to, people feel so removed from that situation. And what you can say to people to get past that but, you know, but they're going to take our jobs, but they're going to get on welfare and they just are going to, you know, we can't support everybody in the world. I guess that's what I'm looking to hear from.
Great point. Thank you.
Does anyone want to respond to that?
Yeah, so how do others work with that same frustration or other frustrations?
Did everybody hear that?
Make sure you project a little.
So, yeah. Do you want to?
Again.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I guess for me, in my age group, I get a lot of people who, you know, when I hear things that are happening at the border with separation of parents and children, putting kids in cages, and you say to people, you know, isn't that terrible, awful? And they go, yeah, it's really terrible and awful, but then they go this big but. But we can't take care of everybody in the world. But they're going to come here and take our, get on welfare, and we're going to have to pay for them. So, for me, what can I say to these people to get past the but? To see that we're all human beings first, as opposed to, I don't know, that's my frustration.
So I think what I'm hearing is, like, how do we, when we hear someone negate something that originally started off positive, like, how do we combat that?
Sometimes is it that you can't reach how much work goes into reaching those solutions. Some people can't do it. Sometimes it's not. Is it worth it to try and push people? This is something I think I don't have interactions at all with people thinking that. So I don't know. I can't respond to them. But I think what it does speak to is that there's huge divisions across our society. Lots of people.
It's like a dehumanization of people. And a big fear, I feel. You know, like, oh my God. You know, and I'll say things like, this is a huge country. Let's give them land and they can start a town. I mean, there's so much we could do. And yet, you had some
I'm Rachel. Honestly, if you really want to respond to that, tell them, have you been in their shoes? Have you been there across the line? Have you struggled? Like, honestly, I live in the border town. My uncle lives over there. He struggles so much. And my grandma, who's maybe your age, has such a big heart that crosses every day to give him food, give him blankets, give him backpacks that his kids need. Tell them, are you in their shoes? Like, are you in their shoes to understand how hard it is to live in a country that's just not with open arms? You have to fight to get where you are. People have to cross over here just to live and get a better job, just so they can say, hey baby, I get my kids, hey, I got you into high school, I got you somewhere better. They want to dream bigger. Don't dream little, honestly. Tell them, have you been in their shoes? Have you struggled like they have? And if they have no response to that, then no, they don't understand them. I mean, imagine how many people around this world that live on welfare or food stamps. That's not fair, honestly. But yet, to the people who actually use it for use, it is fair. And if you take off food stamps, everyone's gonna struggle. Everyone. Welfare. Everyone's gonna struggle. Doesn't matter. They're gonna still take our money. We're still gonna have to pay for other people. It doesn't matter at all.
And it's important to take a systemic view to these issues. There's a real myth of scarcity in this country. We do have enough resources to feed everyone and clothe everyone and make sure that people are getting the healthcare and housing that they need. But it is just not distributed. We're putting our money towards war when we could be feeding so many people. So, but that's a myth that's propagated really in the interest of people that make a lot of money off of it.
Yeah, just to add on to that.
Your name?
Oh, I'm Misha. So, adding on to what you both said, too, you could even get more specific with it and say, like, well, look at the language that you're using right now. Where did it come from? Is that coming from your own thoughts, really? Or is this something that's also a construct just like the border? Because that's language, like, talking about people on welfare as though that's a bad thing is something that comes from the 80s with Reaganomics. And I think that maybe talking to folks of your generation who, you know, have been voting since then, it will resonate with them.
I say we all come from immigrants. This is a country of immigrants. And everybody you talk to, they have, you know, their grandparents were immigrants probably. It's very frustrating.
My name is Alexis. I wanted to bring it back to Storming the Wall, which you guys should all read.
Yeah,
really great.
yeah.
Todd Miller talks about the concepts of like environmental refugees inside of the U.S. and what's going to happen if basically, essentially, Arizona like collapses in on itself and becomes like a fire state, which we've been seeing in California. And so it's this idea of like environmental refugees inside of our own states. And so he references like the bum blockades that happened during the Great Depression with California, and how these people who were in the United States, who were citizens of the United States, were turned away from California in different states that were like progressive and had the money. And so I think that that's really useful to like have these concepts of like what is refugee, and like at that point who's going to be on the outside and who has the privilege when things go wrong in the United States.
Exactly.
And I think there's also the conversation of like a lot of these immigrants that are coming across from the border cross them. They are indigenous people. They're indigenous people to this land. And so like the concept of like everyone's an immigrant isn't necessarily true in this debate, because this has been consistently their land before the border came through.
Heard.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next portion, which is on how we're going to build solidarity, how we can take action together.
All right, so the next question is, what is the particular role of youth, both as affected people and as agents of change against border imperialism.
Sorry, can you repeat
Joe,
that?
yeah, do I hear that in the back?
What is the particular role of youth, of us the youth, both as affected people and as agents of change against border imperialism?
Okay, well, my name's Serge. I think.
Sorry.
Sorry, just a second. Well, what we can do is, well, we're all young. We can just.
That's a train.
We can shape, like how we. I bet a lot of you guys voted. Like, so what I'm trying to say is, if we all get together and we all speak our minds, like what we want to happen in this country, it can happen. But some people just aren't doing it. Some people are just being lazy, and they're just like safe home. But if we just like get the facts out and just talk more youth will be inspired to go vote, and that's honestly what can really help change the country. So that is our role. Sorry, said it.
If there's people here that are involved in their communities, we'd love to hear what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
Another one of our questions, maybe if we don't necessarily have answers to the first one, is what actions are universal and what are local, and how can we stand in solidarity with different communities depending on, for example, where you are geographically, demographically, what social role you hold, whether you're a student or someone in the workforce or politically involved.
Yeah, I'm Karen. I'm from Texas.
Hey.
So I live in the middle of Austin and San Antonio. And we do primarily immigration organizing, but that means everything, right? So there was a young woman from a really small town right next door to ours. Her dad got sent to a detention center after a traffic violation. And just to answer the role of the youth part question. So, I mean, she called our hotline and just told us all everything that was going on. And it was just really powerful to see the role of like storytelling and her being 17 years old and just telling everybody like, hey, this is what happened. I want to go to prom in a month and I can't because I'm worried about my dad who's stuck in a detention center. Writing an op-ed and doing all of that. And I guess I'm only 24, but those of us that are a little bit older, we knew our place was like, okay, we're gonna just make the space for you to tell your story, right? So we're gonna have these like nightly organizing phone calls where we're just figuring out the deportation defense campaign plan. But it was really just her telling the story. Like, Natalie, what do you want to do? Like, how do we make sure you do what you want to do and what you're comfortable with? And she's the only person in her family who was comfortable and even had any kind of documentation, so any kind of remote safety. You know, like we knew that we had to just like let her take up that space and make the space for her to take up. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, just to sort of tie in what I've heard so far, I feel like the approach has to be intersectional. Like Karen, you were mentioning giving the platform for people to talk, but also at the same time, like Serge was talking about with getting people to vote and getting people to be engaged with the current system itself. And so I feel like Daniela mentioned, we have to be aware of like our own roles as well. Like we're coming from the place of students at a university. Some of you are coming from the place of like high schoolers or maybe community organizers, and just being wary of like what your role is, what kind of power that you have is important, because the issue is multifaceted and there isn't just like one end all be all solution.
I think you brought up an important way in which organizing can manifest is making people the center of our movements, like giving them a face, not migrants, like not refugees, my dad, my uncle, my sister. Yeah.
You gonna say something?
Yeah, my name's Evan Archibald. I'm a student at St. Paul in San Francisco. I wanted to share some ideas or some things that we've seen as far as our organizing in the last 3 years. We are one of the first colleges to offer free tuition to its residents in the entire city through a progressive tax on the rich. And there was a myth that by providing free education that it would lead to a lot of drastic we believe a student union as an alternative is a possible way to achieving that. The second one was also on how we can learn from international movements and international perspectives so we can ground our tactics and our strategies in that. So we've been taking very seriously looking into the Bolivarian Revolution, like Venezuela and Puerto Rico, Chile, looking at how they combat and how they fought against the neoliberal model. Because the reality is that the business model is so deeply entrenched in our colleges that simply going from just free education was not enough. And the need to recognizing that the classes and the programs were tied to meeting corporate workforce needs. And while that's in place, it's impossible to really make the drastic changes we want in the college campus. And therefore, what does it mean to have an alternative and taking into consideration the classroom as a laboratory of social change? And that means, how do you build the skills and the capacities of students while they're learning in popular education in order to take on community issues, ones that are very relevant in our immediate surroundings. So we're looking at like aquaponics as a way to take up